Hey everybody, it's James Lindsay. You are listening to New Discourses Bullets, where I give a short bullet point type summary of a single topic within woke Marxism that you need to understand. You have to understand the people. The word people is the subject today. The people, as a matter of fact. What is the people? Well, let's just give a little context, and I'm going to tell you about what's happened in the dictionary, the Cambridge Dictionary, which a lot of you will have seen. So if we go, say, and we read through Robert Lifton's descriptions of Mao Zedong's CCP, the Chinese Communist Party in the 1950s and 1960s, you constantly hear him say that the point of brainwashing, which is what the Chinese literally called it, Xinao in Mandarin, wash brain, that's literally what it means, in the prisons and in the schools, was meant to bring you to the people's standpoint, to see the world from the position of the people. The Soviets obviously were very interested in being the party of the people. So communists pretend to be a populist movement. In fact, Marxists.org encyclopedia or glossary of terms tries to play off that the word the people refers to a populist movement, but it also mentions explicitly on there that it does not refer to the ruling classes. They don't count as the people. So then we hear about things like what we call North Korea, but they themselves call the People's Democratic Republic of Korea. People's democracy is a concept in Marxist thought. A people's democracy is a democracy for the people, not for anybody else. It's laid out by Lenin in State and Revolution, which he wrote in 1917 and 18 when he was taking over and beginning the Soviet Union during the Russian Revolution and following that. And he defines there, again, the same thing, that the ruling classes don't count as the people. He says that a people's democracy will raise the voice of the people, and it will suppress those voices that they don't want to hear from, those that are among the ruling class, and thus also those who support the system that communists believe uphold the ruling class. So the people means people who support communism and the Communist Party in communist situations. It doesn't mean more or less than that. So here we have this thing that happened just recently. It's gone viral this week on Twitter as I record this, and it's a Cambridge Dictionary, and it is the entry for the word female. And it says female noun, a female animal. It gives the example sentence, the kitten was actually a female, not a male. Then it says formal, used in technical or scientific writing to refer to a woman or girl. Example sentence, the study participants included 350 males and 250 females. Then there's a note, and this is what caused this to go viral. This isn't controversial in the least yet, but there's a note at the bottom. Granted, there is the issue that female is defined in terms of being female, which is a bit of a circular definition, which suggests that there's actually something self-evident in what words like female and male mean. We could define it in terms of things like gametes and other things. Biologists do this. But this is the Cambridge Dictionary. It's not being that formal. But this note they've added says, except in scientific writing, most people find this usage of female offensive. And so the internet has gone berserk, obviously, with this. Most people do not find the actual simple definition of female offensive. And so what gives? And people are all over the internet are going bonkers saying, what do they mean by most? And they're missing the point. And you might be missing the point. The word that matters here isn't most. It's not most in terms of most people find this offensive. It's people. The only people who count for them are the people who agree with them. That's a big deal. Because if they are able to get that kind of mentality spread, the people who don't agree with us aren't people, then if you don't have personhood, then you can be eliminated. You can be treated badly. What's going on in Canada with the forced or government-offered euthanasia? Well, they're suggesting that due to circumstances, your personhood is ended. What's going on with the debate around abortion? Everybody says it's when life begins. No, it's not. The question is, when do we consider personhood to begin? And with euthanasia, it's when do we consider personhood to have ended? And the communists are saying, if you don't agree with us, you're not a person. So that gives them a carte blanche if they are able to put this into effect to determine, since you're not a person, what happens with you. This is part and parcel through all of communist stuff, all of communist literature, all of communist thought, all of communist behavior for hundreds or for over 100 years, for millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, billions of people have, literally billions of people have suffered under the idea that if you are not of the people, then you are not a person, and you are only of the people if you support the party that supports the people, in other words, the communists. This is so crucially important to understand. The operative word in this stupid note, except in scientific writing, most people find this usage of female offensive. The operative word is not most. They aren't screwing around. They only count as people, the people who agree with them. So important to understand, and that this mentality is so important to understand. I don't want to get esoteric with this very often. I guess I'm going to have to soon. But I'll go into the esoteric aspect of this. You actually can read this throughout all of the kind of esoteric religious literature. In the Corpus Hermeticum, they describe that there are two types of people. There are people who have access to nous, to mind, N-O-U-S, a Greek word, capitalized, which means the divine mind. So there are people who have access to mind who are people, and there are people who don't, who are not people. They're closer to animals. They're like animals in human bodies. You read this in the theosophical crazy pants new age nonsense, that there are the people who are of higher so-called root races that are more human and less animal, but the others are more animal and less human. And the reason is because they don't have mind. They don't understand the divine plan. They don't have connection to spirit. They're missing something that fundamentally makes them human, which allows for the full dehumanization of those people, because they don't count as people. You see this with Marx, where he's writing in the economic and philosophic manuscripts that there is that the true nature of human is as a social being, and that people who don't realize that, in other words, that don't have socialist mind, haven't understood what it really means to be human and are thus dehumanized. So if they're dehumanized, they can be treated as dehumanized entities. So only the socialist understands, only the socialist has socialist mind, only the socialist understands the divine plan for humanity to traject toward communism. And as a result, only the socialist counts as people. Everybody else is below that. They are a little more nuanced than that. To be a little fair, they believe there are the people who can be awakened or re-educated and the people who cannot. If you can't be re-educated, you are not people. This is very important to understand. This isn't just them being silly, putting this note. They are revealing to you that not only do they think they're better than you, they think that they are human where you're not. Your personhood is in question if you don't agree with them. And this is part and parcel, whether we want to call it Marxist thought, or if we want to go deeper to its root and call it Hermetic thought, which is cult religious thought. It is that the people who count as people have had an encounter with the true mind, and everybody else is too dumb and too animal and too fallen and too depraved, or whatever it happens to be, corrupted by bourgeois values maybe, corrupted by white supremacy maybe, benefiting from cis-heteronormativity maybe, whatever it happens to be, they aren't the right kind of mind to understand the higher level understanding of the world, and so their personhood status is not only placed in question but removed from them. So again, the warning for this definition of female, which is a very, basic, simple, non-controversial definition of female, is that except in scientific writing, which they are claiming the mantle of, by the way, most people find this usage of female offensive. Most people. Most isn't the operative word. People is. Now, I will point out just tangentially, this is about people, but tangentially, so they say except in scientific writing. It's very important to understand. The scientific writing, actual scientific writing, biological writing, where we start talking about things like gametes and hormones and chromosomes and things like this, sexual dimorphism, it turns out that actually completely destroys their entire gender sex nonsense that they do under queer theory. So guess what? They have to relegate it to a ghetto. Scientific writing talks this way, but that's not what we really care about. We care about what most people find offensive, and most people are defined as the people who agree with them. You must understand that. So The people refers to people who support communism. It doesn't refer to anybody else. The end of that road is the utter dehumanization. You don't have inalienable rights as a person if you're not a person. So the revocation of your inalienable rights, your alienation from society, your disenfranchisement under a people's democracy. The end of that road is absolute tyranny, because the people who believe they count as people, because they agree with one another on the totalizing ideology of the day, turn out to be the people, and you turn out not to be the people, and therefore you are going to suffer. That's what you must take away from this. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again next time.